Hey everybody, and thanks for watching Woodcrest Bonsai. Today I'm going to put two very young azaleas into bonsai pots. And it's just kind of playing, and I'm in a playful mood, I guess. So these are both the variety called Duchess of Cypress. It's a very pretty pink flower. And you can see they're a little bit overgrown, especially this one has elongated a lot. But I'm not going to do any cutbacks like I normally do with a lot of trees, because they have already begun to produce flower buds. So here's, right here you can see the flower bud just beginning. Here's another one, the flower bud just beginning. These guys flower in December, and so now it's the third week of September, so in a couple of months they'll be in full bloom. And then I'll cut them back after full bloom. And these guys really need some TLC. So I'm going to start with this guy. This guy is almost not, look at the soil, it's just, there's just nothing there. So they really need some TLC. And the first thing I'm going to do is just do some wiring. I think I've decided this is the front. And we have, let me just take the pot out of there. And we have a decent tree. This can come down, this can come down. And of course, if it were a different tree, I'd cut it way back to about there. But since I want the flowers on the end, so we're just going to wire a little bit, just kind of play with it. So, have my used wire that I use all the time. I used. And none of this wiring is really even set in stone. Actually, I don't think it's named yet, but we're going to get a hurricane. What's it going to be, Irene? And I'm not going to get anywhere near the brunt of the damage. But we are forecast to get some of the effects. Some wind and a lot of rain. It's supposed to be a very large rainmaker. And that's in the next couple of days, so I may not be able to produce any videos for a couple of days, because since I produce outside, it's pretty hard to do anything when it's pouring rain. And if you've ever been in a hurricane, or even just the outskirts of a hurricane, you know that the rain comes in bands. Unless you're right in the middle of it, then it can rain just constantly for hours on end. But for the most part, the rain comes in bands. So a squall will come through, it'll get incredibly windy and rainy, and then it will quit. And then another squall comes through, and so on and so on and so on. Azaleas have pretty thin bark, so they take a little bit of care when you're wiring. And if we, in fact, I think I already scarred it right there. See right there? I already scarred the trunk. Oops. If we imagine this guy with everything cut back, it's going to be an interesting little tree. Azaleas are sometimes not really styled to be the classic bonsai. They're styled more for the flowers. So just a nice canopy with decent symmetry, and they're really only shown when they're in flower. The flowers are the whole deal. Now when it comes to flowers with bonsai, yesterday I did a video on leaf reduction by defoliating. You cannot coax a tree into having smaller flowers. The flowers are pretty much naturally the way they're going to be. So these flowers are about an inch across, an inch and a half across. So these little guys are going to have a lot of flowers. I mean, the flowers are going to be big. They are going to have a lot of flowers, just about every point. Here's another, on this guy here, here's another flower bud. Right there. And it's a real pretty color. And I'm going to, right now they're in landscape mix, and I'm not going to prune the roots by any means because that would be just disastrous. But I'm putting them into a mix of bonsai soil and some landscape mix. So azaleas really like a lot of moisture. Azaleas are another one that do not like to dry out. Basically zero drought tolerance. And there's enough space between the edge of the existing roots and the edge of the pot where I can just pour the soil in like this. I don't really need to take a chopstick or anything. And then the last thing, to secure it, I don't normally like to wire the roots, so I use rocks. And rocks work pretty well. Just throw some rocks in there. Do I have a smaller one that'll fit? Oh yeah, perfect, right there. Okay, there we go. And I don't know if you noticed, but the root ball was incredibly wet. So I will water it, but it's not like an emergency to get it watered. So there we go. And I'll show you when they're flowering in December. So there's the first one. The second one I'm going to do the same thing with. It's got a much better root ball. It's held together much better. Obviously in landscape mix you can see, and it's also very wet. So, oh, and also the only trimming I'm going to do is some dead. You can see that this part here, I need to bring it back up again. This part here is dead. Oop, look at it, just snapped off. I didn't even need to cut it. Then we're going to wire this baby down. Into place like that. You need a little bit bigger piece for this. This wire is probably a little too heavy, but it'll work. Like I said before, wire that's a little too heavy is going to have more potential to damage the bark. And azaleas have very thin bark to begin with. So we're just going to wire it very loosely. Don't crush that little branch. That should work. And then I use my thumbs so I can tell if the branch is cracking or not. And I think we're going to bring this guy up as the leader. I'm just laughing at my wiring job. certainly wouldn't win any awards. However, I'm not really looking to win any awards. What I'm looking for is that it holds the branches in the place I want. And since I'm a wire saver, I leave, huge chunks of wire still sticking out. Bring that guy back down. There we go, beautiful. Well, I think so at least. Okay, the pot is already prepared with drainage screen. No root pruning, although I have put it in the pot already. So I'm going to give it just a little bit of I wouldn't call it a pruning, but I'm just going to remove the edge of the soil so it's not sticking up so badly. And then put it in the pot. Fill it with soil. And there you go. So right now, got some big rocks for this one. The plan for the near future is to just grow them on, keep them watered, because azaleas have zero drought tolerance. You can never let an azalea dry completely, or else you won't have an azalea. Let's see if I can get this guy back so we can see more of it. And bring up the camera some. So there you go. And even though this guy is really long and leggy, we can imagine a really nice little tree. It's got first main branch, second main branch, has back branch. It needs to fill in. But I'm kind of liking this. Let's move back a little. So there's the whole tree. So the near future is to grow it on, let it flower in December, and then once the flowers fade and the new growth begins, which is normally about February or something like that, then I'll cut it back. Cut it back to probably a canopy in here somewhere, something like that. So, cut here, cut the top, and then as the new growth sprouts, then I can begin to develop ramification. So that's it for today. 2 azaleas into bonsai pots. And I'm especially this one, I'm really liking the way this one turned out. The smaller one, probably as far as design, has a little bit more work to do. Can you see them both together? No. There, how about that? So just some playing, pre-hurricane playing. So thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and you can watch these guys when they're in full bloom in December, and then the cutback in February, and watch them develop. And I've got a few more, but for today I'm only just going to do these 2. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.